valuable Sonoran Desert area. Do you intend to ignore that resolution and continue to consider the Avon Valley route a viable opposition for the highway?
Thank you very much for the comment. I am very aware of that resolution that Pima County passed. That resolution is in our document, in our legal section. That document will be reviewed. There's some interim steps here coming up in October. We have a Federal Highway Administration. I'm not an attorney, so we have Federal Highway Administration legal department do a legal review in October. They will look at those documents, and we have several other resolutions that have been brought to us by tribal nations and other local governments. They're in the document, and we will respond to them with our legal counsel.
All righty. Okay, who in ADOT and who are the influencing bodies who will be making the decision to which route will be the preferred route for the highway? Okay.
So right now, it's, again, this is a deliberative document. Let me back up. I may not have mentioned all this. The draft environmental impact statement will have a recommended alternative. Recommended. It's not a decision document, just a recommendation. That will go out to the public and all the consulting agencies and everybody for comment. We will go to a final environmental impact statement, okay? And that final document will have a preferred alternative. Preferred. These are languages in the National Environmental Policy Act. So preferred, again, it's not a decision document. It is a deliberative document with all the comments. That'll go back out to the public and everybody, and then we'll go to a record of decision, and that record of decision will have a selected alternative. And that selected alternative will be a decision document.
Jay, I'm sorry to interrupt. That was actually my question, and I just want to clarify because the wording got changed a little bit. What I'm actually asking, and I think what a lot of us want to know, is why, if the Department of Transportation knows that there's this county resolution that says no interstate in Avon Valley, why you would pursue that as an option to begin with. And I'll just add, using our taxpayer money for that was actually supposed to go to our roads as they exist, but that's additional.
Thank you. Again, I'll have to defer that to our legal counsel. I'm not an attorney.
Can I expect an answer on that at some point soon?
It will be after our legal review will be in October, and it will be in our document.
So I'll have an answer in the document to that question that we're recording in October. I will find out, and I'll get your name and see if that direct answer will be for that. I will let you know. Thank you.
Jay, would I be correct in assuming, though, that if you guys weren't going to use those alternative routes to come through the Avon Valley, it would have been up to the Board of Supervisors to lead you away from even considering that to begin with?
Yeah, it seems like you've got the cart before the horse. You're proposing a route without seeking legal advice before you propose it? Yeah. Just a question.
Again, it's alternatives. I am not an attorney.
But you are the person at the forefront of this study.
And they're just alternatives at this stage. They're just deliberative alternatives.
But they're alternatives that go against County Resolution 2007-43, directed by our Board of Supervisors, that specifically states going through pristine Sonoran Desert is not acceptable option.
Thank you.
We're not taking questions from the floor right now.
Well, but he didn't answer the previous
He's
one.
not answering the question.
The question was, who makes the decision? That was the question you asked.
All right.
Yeah. Who makes the decision?
So the final decision will be Federal Highway Administration.
Any other comments on that? If you keep it peaceful. All right, next question. Moving forward, how will picture rocks be included in any decisions made concerning building a highway through our community?
Stay involved. We are, as you saw, the deliberative process there. We have public hearings coming up in early 2019. There will be a comment period, and the team will be addressing all those comments after the public hearing. We will go to a final environmental impact statement. That document will go back out for public comment, and that will be addressed also. Anybody, Picture Rocks, and entire study area from Nogales to Wickenburg. Daily, as I said, we have a telephone line 24/7. There's comment forms. There is social media. There's plenty of ways to get your comments heard.
All righty. How do you reconcile the President's stated goal of returning jobs to the United States with a business case for I-11's stated goals of providing jobs in Mexico with near-shoring and integrated manufacturing and for accommodating shipping lured from U.S. West Coast ports to Mexican port of Guaymas?
Wow.
And solve world peace.
We are, Arizona Department of Transportation does work with our partners in Mexico. Mexico is our #1 trading partner. Canada is our #2 trading partner. We will continue, wall or no wall, there will still be gates, there will still be trucks, there will still be goods and services going back and forth. A strong economy in Mexico is good for the United States. A strong economy in the United States is good for Mexico.
One comment regarding that. This highway is going north-south, which is going to facilitate trade between Canada, United States, and Mexico. However, for our community, we benefit zero from the highway on cutting through the heart of the western portion of our community. We have to go east, west, and vice versa. How does that benefit us? That's zero benefit as far as I can see in all cases.
It's a good comment. Okay.
Can you repeat the question, kind of, or the gist of it? Because you got people outside trying to listen.
Interstate 11 is a north-south route, not an east-west route. How does it benefit us locally?
We'll get more McDonald's.
All right, keep the comments down.
A follow-up to that, if I
Have you included in your
can.
proposal the likely increased taxes on the community made necessary to provide additional security for a new highway? Won't a new highway increase human and drug smuggling through our communities?
The answer to the first about taxes, as I mentioned, there's been no monies identified by the federal government or local government for this project. The monies for a new interstate will have to come from all of us as the public making a decision, do we want our transportation monies invested in a new interstate? The answer to the second question is opposed to drug and human smuggling. We meet with Border Patrol, we meet with Homeland Security. It's another route, sure, there's another route that can be taken. We are just looking to secure it as best we can.
Going back to the question about the, nearshoring integrated manufacturing. We have a comment from the floor. So isn't it true that Mexico and Canada benefit the most from I-11? This isn't putting America first.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Not for us, for them.
All right.
The studies that we have done in our report, economic generators and economic growth, are predominantly United States. So, as I mentioned, as a Department of Transportation, we don't identify where the economic centers go. We don't identify where Dollar Store gets built. We don't identify where a new Amazon gets built. We don't identify where new subdivisions or anything gets built. What we do is take that information that is decided by you, Picture Rocks, City of Tucson, Pima County, of where we want economic development. Then we determine what the transportation needs are for that. How many trucks? A residential home, it's, 4.5 vehicles per day moving back and forth from it. So once all those residentials and rooftops and developments and commercial and industrial, once that is all set, that determines the need for trucks and vehicles, and then we determine where to put the roadways be it an interstate highway, a residential road, or a collector road.
Comment, can I comment?
Not yet. I'm through with these.
Well, I don't see any trucks on I-19. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, here's another question from the floor. How much private land will be taken or bought in any plan?
We have not determined that yet, because right now, we don't have, we have a 2,000-foot corridor, we have no right-of-way plans. The 2,000 foot is very high level. We have no, within that 2,000 foot, an interstate corridor is normally, as I mentioned, between 300 and 400 feet. So there's no determination of where that footprint will be or what lands will be purchased.
So the map is so vague, I can't tell where that 2,000-foot corridor is. When will I get to see a map that tells me if your corridor goes over my house?
December of this year.
That's post-decision of which alternative will be selected, though, right?
In reference to that question, here's a question from the floor. Why are there no street names on the I-11 tier EIS South section maps? And how are you going to go through the Saguaro National Park West?
Again, back to your comment too, the maps at the that 280 mile at our high level, so there are not many local street names on it because at that time, and that was December of last year, we weren't at that level, down to ground level. The facility will not impact physically through the Saguaro National Monument. We are meeting with the National Park Service. As I mentioned, they are one of our cooperating agencies. We meet with them monthly on the project. They are part of the project in reviewing and helping put the document together. But as of right now, no alternative goes to the Saguaro National Park.
Yes.
Who are you?
My name's Paul, Picture Rocks resident.
Okay.
Loud. A lot. But just on that last bit, if you were to provide an actual map.
Yeah, take a mic.
If you were to provide an actual map with the GIS layers that actually show where the route is, because the route is drawn specifically, but the map that you provided is not in enough resolution for us to tell where you've drawn those lines. And I know it would be a very simple thing to give us the GIS layers. And what that means is that we can make a map that everyone can see very easily with anyone who has a know-how.
Thank you, sir. Good comment. Those maps will be available in December of this year. We just don't have them done yet. They're just not done.
They already are done because you put those lines on a map and they are somewhere physically in your GIS file. So they exist.
December of this year, you'll have the maps, GIS, and you make your decision.
There's the map. No worries.
Just for the record, when the county administrator put out his route, just for the record, when the county administrator put out his route, he said 47 families would be evicted.
Thank you, Albert. All right, here's another comment for the, I guess a question from the floor. Are comments still being accepted for the draft EIS? And will the final EIS be available for comment?
Thank you. First off, Albert, that did not say 47 would be evicted. 47 homes would be impacted, not evicted.
Impacted how?
If you want to know the difference, it's between a motivated buyer and a motivated seller.
Oh, man. Oh, my God.
That's the county. Okay, that's the county project. So all I know is what I just wanted to say. It wasn't evicted. It was impacted. Just smacked. Verbal. The draft document will be out in December of this year. There is a 45-day, possibly longer, comment period after the public hearings that will be throughout the state.
All right. Have you included in your proposals the disposition of the wildlife mitigation corridor was preserved in perpetuity during the CAP construction?
That's a very good question. The Tucson Mitigation Corridor is a habitat connectivity mitigation measure for the Tucson Aqueduct of the Central Arizona project. It is the owner with jurisdiction of that parcel is the Bureau of Reclamation. They're in partnership with Fish and Wildlife and Game and Fish in Pima County. All those agencies are cooperating agencies or participating agencies with us. We are working with them now to see if there's alternatives that can be incorporated within the Tucson Mitigation Corridor along Sandario Road.
Okay, and in reference to that, who in the organization will be addressing the management of wildlife corridors, and how will you prevent groundwater recharge settling ponds in our aquifer from being polluted by truck emissions?
Good questions. First, wildlife connectivity. Again, as I mentioned, Arizona Game and Fish is a cooperating agency. They have provided us with as much science and data they have in terms of the wildlife connectivity for their threatened and endangered species and also their game species. We also work with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, who have also a wildlife connectivity and habitat conversations. In terms of the basins, CAVSARP and SAVSARP, we have met with the City of Tucson, Tucson Water, and City of Tucson leadership to discuss groundwater and our continued operation of the recharge basins. In terms of pollution, truck pollution, accidental spills, what have you.
All righty. Will the affected, displaced residents, owners, tenants be eligible for full benefits under the federal relocation laws?
As I mentioned, we're a long way from that, but the Uniform Relocation Act will be in place whenever anything, if a bill alternative and when the implementation period starts.
Alrighty, what consideration has been given to the need of farmers to access their fields with slow, wide equipment? Will there be a need for frontage roads on both sides of the road plus several over or underpasses?
That's a very good question. We are not down to that level of detail. Access issues are important to our public lands, national parks, wilderness, also private lands. We have not determined where frontage roads or interchanges or any of those type of facilities are at this time.
Does the City of Tucson support options C and D for the alternate route through Amber Valley? That's our question number 4.
I can't recall.
Actually, Jay, I can tell you.
Yeah. So city.
Yeah. It's report on page, actually, hold on, I have to look at this.
I didn't know if we had something official, but Arian said City of Tucson supports managed lane and the improvement of I-10 alternative B through Tucson.
And isn't that a $2 million less expenditure going through Tucson? You don't tell me you don't know, Jay.
I don't know, Jay.
By the way, to refresh your memory, that's page C7.
All right. Okay, submitting written questions or taking one-on-one with ADOT staff does not contribute to an open and healthy discussion at the public meetings. Will you allow questions from the floor at the next round of public meetings? If not, why not? Isn't public discussion a good idea at a public meeting?
Asked earlier and answered, the next round of public meetings will be public hearings. So we will be able to get up one-on-one, there'll be a panel, there'll be a court reporter, and there'll be, I'm sure timed, but there'll be an ample amount of time where anybody will be able to get up and make their public comment.
You said one-on-one though?
No, no one-on-one.
I think you said one-on-one, okay.
No, this is
At the public level.
at the public level, yes.
And will they be able to make that comment out loud so others can hear it, or will it be like on a sticky note or just?
It'll be out
private?
loud. Those who want to get up and make a comment, public hearing, there'll be a panel, and they'll be able to get up in 3, 5, 7 minutes, depending on how many people. Or if somebody wants to do it privately to a court reporter, so they can do that also.
Thank you.
Just one more thing to add to that I know we talked about in the stakeholder meetings is making that meeting at a time where people can make it, because the last meetings were at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's difficult for a lot of people if they're picking up their kids who just got off work. So maybe do it on the weekend or just a little bit later in the evening, like 6 o'clock, might be better.
Okay. No, point well taken. We will try our best. We've had meetings at 5, we'll till 7, we do 7, they say have 5. We do weekends, they go, we have soccer on the weekends. It's kind of damned if we do, damned if we don't, but we're going to do our best. We're going to extend some hours on having, instead of just 2 hours, we'll probably do something longer, maybe to capture the people that want to come from work, that want to get off work, and people that got to get home. So we're going to try. Yes. Good comment.
Thank you, Ross. University of Arizona study finds that of the approximately 150,000 U.S. valley fever infections that occur per year, about 160 people die. 2/3 of these infections affect Arizonians, mostly in the valley fever corridor, I-10, that runs between the state's 2 largest cities, Phoenix and Tucson. Pets and humans alike are susceptible to valley fever. Valley fever cases are on the rise this year. How can you prevent an Amber Valley route from creating another valley fever corridor and exposing even more seniors, children, and veteran residents to this incurable disease?
Wow. We have not addressed that in our study yet, so I don't have an answer to that, but I will bring it up to the team and see if that's an issue that has been brought up that we can address.
Alrighty, I'll take comments and questions from the floor one at a time, and we're going to keep it peaceful. So if you have any questions, raise your hand and come up to the microphone preferably, because otherwise they can't hear you. Hang on back there.
Thank you. Jay, you've gone through some great pains to explain that no money has been spent on this project, whereas actually I believe 15 million of taxpayer dollars have been allocated. Can you comment on that? Is that accurate?
Yes, what I said is correct. No monies have been identified from the federal government for any of these projects in any of those transportation acts or bills. So it's not anybody's program, and no federal monies have been identified. The state,
we're just paying for it as Arizona.
The State Transportation Board did identify $15 million to do this Tier 1 programmatic level. So yes, you are right. There's $15 million for this Tier 1 environmental.
And where did that money come from?
The legislature.
Us, taxpayers.
Where would it have gone if it weren't going towards the study?
I can't answer that. I don't know the answer. The State Transportation Board made that decision, and they work for all of us. So if they're a public body, they made that decision. I just got the contract once they decided to do it.
Okay, well, make it real simple for us. So there's a big pot of money for Arizona Department of Transportation, and this came out of it, or did it come from one program into another? What could have happened with that money? Could it have been used to improve our roads, existing roads?
I'm not the financial guy, so I can't answer that.
We want to know. So.
I can offer just a general answer. We get funding for different things within ADOT. We get funding for projects, we get funding for studies. This is the I-11 study is part of a long-range planning process, and part of that process is our obligation to study long-range projects. This could go forward, this may not go forward. It's part of our long-range due diligence to study these types of things. We have allocated money for such projects, for such studies like this. So this is part of our long-range planning process. Again, this is money that's allocated for that.
Thank you, Laura. By whom? Gentleman over here has a Question or comment? Okay.
Hi, my name's Frank, live in Pitcher Rocks. Jay, last year I asked you this question about corridor B, I-10, and why you can't just provide some alternatives, widen it or double stack it, and why area B was being proposed. And you told me the reason was is that you have to have two independent routes. Is that correct?
What the NEPA document says is you have to have reasonable and prudent and feasible alternatives. So the alternatives in Apple Valley were put forth by people we have to study. Public put them forward, the county put them forward, other people have put them forward. So they're all alternatives that we have to look at. There's reasonable and prudent.
So the answer is yes.
Yes.
Can you now explain to me why there's only one proposal for Route 80? Nogales to Tucson.
From Nogales to Tucson, the route down there is the Saguaro National Forest and the Santa Cruz floodplain. There are issues down there that precluded having another alternative other than widening I-19 up to the bifurcations. But from Nogales to Wickenburg, there are alternatives.
So the answer is you can ignore it because there's issues from Tucson to Nogales, but going north, you don't ignore it.
No, sir, there are alternatives. This is Nogales to Wickenburg. So from Nogales to Wickenburg, there are alternatives.
Okay, so, but I think his point is that you are then, you say you need alternatives, C and D. Is that what you're saying? Because that's part of the process?
C and D were alternatives that were brought forth by members of the public and participating agencies to study.
Who would that be?
Yeah, who are those participating agencies and members of the public?
Jay, I think that's perplexing to most people because, as we all know, in the reports, 90% of people are opposed to it. As far as when you guys open up public comment section, 90% of people are opposed to it. So I think the perplexing part is when you say that the public feedback is taken and you guys heed that advice, it just doesn't seem like it. And then especially with the BOS resolution too, like, I mean, I know there's got to be a reasonable range of alternatives. I know that is required by law, by NEPA. But by the same token, if that's for the corridor from Wickenburg to Nogales, it's weird that right here in our little mini section of Tucson, we have all of these alternatives, two of which are out in the Apple Valley, and the BOS resolution has stood for a long time. So I just, like, I don't know why that in itself didn't, draw you guys away from even putting alternative routes out here to consider. And you know how the public feels. It's been spoken time and time again. And I'm just saying this more for the people.
No, it's a very good comment. And, there are alternatives that have been, before this time, there are alternatives that have been thrown out in Apple Valley over the years.
Right.
So,
Well, again, at our last meeting,
You don't need to get involved in these questions.
at our last meeting, I asked the question, this thing got started 20-some years ago for NAFTA. We now have a new president that's going to kill NAFTA. He's bringing thousands of factories back to America. Quoting thousands. Okay. So last year I asked the question, can you name one single new factory along this corridor from Nogales to Canada in support, American factory, in support of this project? So it's a year and a half later since the first couple of meetings. Can you name one single American manufacturing plant that's being built along this corridor? The largest highway project in our lifetimes that's been proposed?
They're in Mexico.
Canada.
our section on economic generators, and no, I can't name a particular one. I don't have them, but you got that started. There are economic generators from Nogales on to Wickenburg, again, from the local governments, and their zoning capabilities that have identified those locations.
We got someone waiting here for a question.
Thank you. Is there a possibility that whoever is proposing this highway is colluding or conspiring with local governments. Well, the reason I ask that is because we've been here quite a while. My in-laws homesteaded where we live here down the road in 1850. So we've been here a while, and a couple of things that happened in the last 4 or 5 years, if I may, which leads me to believe that somebody has a plan. I developed some properties that had a price. The county came in and they offered to buy some of those properties for almost half of what we were selling them for. Okay, and not only did they ask to buy them, but they wrote a nasty letter by the floodplain people saying that the area that they had given me permission to develop were almost unbuildable. So potentially those properties could not be sold on the market because the county had already deemed them unbuildable after they had given us the permits to develop them as buildable. Now, that's one issue. The other issue is that about 2006, I believe, I moved a manufactured home from around the San Javier area, Mission area, to over here in Manville, and it cost me $1,200 to move and to set it up. And we're in a floodplain, okay? This year, I sold a house that was going across the street, and the lowest bid that we got, because of the regulations in the county and the state, the lowest bid was $16,000 and the highest was $32,000. So the fact that they're wanting to buy some land at a very, very cheap price and then telling you that those properties cannot be resold in the market, and basically the issue of putting restrictions on manufactured home building here or setting up tells me that there might be some kind of conspiracy and or collusion between you guys and the county that really doesn't help us. So can you answer that? Can you comment?
I don't know how to, I think we're working for the federal government and Arizona Department of Transportation.
Yeah, but you're talking to the county. You guys are dealing with each other.
We deal with all the local governments, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Somebody else is next. Come on up if you want to. You need the microphone so they can't hear.
I promised Bella and Jay that I'm not going to get any arguments tonight. So this is just informational. I was at the State Transportation Board meeting when they approved the $15 million for the study. The meeting was chaired, incidentally, by now Supervisor Steve Christie. Information. They had approved a number of projects, state transportation projects, and then suspended all of those to generate the $15 million for the study. I was there. In terms of the last gentleman, our research a few years ago showed that companies owned by the Cardin family, Will Cardin, remember, ran for state office in primaries a couple of times and committed suicide last year. But his family's owned about 1,500 acres, vacant acres, the route that was put forward by Chuck Huckleberry. It's been reported, but not verified, that in the lower part of the Abra Valley and northern part of the Altar Valley, that property valuations have been going down over the past couple of years, while everybody else's have been going up.
Verified.
Just information. Don't have it. It's verified?
Verified.
That's somebody who lives there and knows.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else? Come up to the microphone, please.
Why wasn't a do-nothing solution or recommendation presented?
It is. The do nothing, no build alternative is, as I mentioned in my presentation, it is one of the alternatives as being studied. It will continue to go through in the deliberative stage. It will continue to go through until a record decision is made. It's a viable decision at this time.
Paul, are you next, or
I actually want to follow up on that if I could.
microphone?
Yes, and as far as the no-build option goes, yeah, I think the comment is right that we've kind of been steered away from that and just looking at, oh, it's going to be this alternative or that alternative. But not much discussion has really gone into, do we really need the thing to start with? Now, you presented some information based on models, and you have a computer program that you plug this into, and then it spit out some alternatives based on population, based on perceived or projected traffic patterns, 15, 20, 30 years from now. There's a lot of assumptions that go into those models, correct? So, for instance, in your latest report, you say it specifically does not include the potential for autonomous vehicles. And of course, that's going to be a big thing on a road. It's going to change traffic patterns. It doesn't account for it. As was brought up before, we don't know what's happening with NAFTA. And if you're looking at the last 20 years in traffic patterns and trying to extrapolate into the future, and you don't even know if NAFTA is going to be around anymore, those estimates don't really hold up. So there's a huge, when they send out this email and said there's going to be a 40% increase in traffic, think about in statistics, you do confidence intervals. So that's somewhere between -20 and 80%. They really don't know, even though they would like you to think that there is a much more certain answer.
Thank you, Paul. Okay.
Truth to power.
Would it be a fair and accurate statement to say that when all is said and done, the final decision will rest with the federal government, who has the power to supersede everything else? Is that a fair statement? And I come in peace.
I think everybody's come in peace. I appreciate everybody. You guys have been very, very. The Federal Highway Administration will have the last decision in this. That's why the National Environmental Policy Act is very procedural. That's why we do these meetings. That's why we do these documents. That's why we have due diligence in terms of meeting with all our resource agencies and our local governments. So at the end of the day, an interstate is a federal transportation facility.
But you are in charge of the narrowing down the alternative routes, though, right? So they decide based on what you guys decide on for the alternative routes. So to be fair.
To be fair, what we all decide. So it's public comment, it's tribal comment, it's public comment, it's cooperating agencies. I do not make that decision. It's very deliberative. I have no idea what the decision is going to be. It could be a no bill. It could be A. It could be B. It could be C. D. I do not know.
Well, if it's up to us, we can wrap it up and get out of here.
Yeah, based on their numbers.
Yeah. It's about one of the environments that hasn't really been mentioned. I've mentioned a lot about efficiency and other things pertaining to the land, but I was wondering if there has been research done about how this affects pit peak and the observation and the light pollution from traffic and the highway. Do you know what they're saying, or what do you know about considering that environment?
Very good question. Here in southern Arizona, University of Arizona, astronomy is very important. Night sky is very important. We are studying light pollution. We are studying, looking at ways to avoid, minimize, and mitigate lighting the facility with minimal lighting. It was a big issue with National Park Service and Saguaro National Park. So yes, we will be addressing light pollution. I did not mention in my presentation, but it is one of the environmental issues that are part and parcel of making decisions.
Well, of course, that doesn't include the consideration of all the development lights that will come after an interstate would be built.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for putting this together, all of you. I'm curious when this next public hearing is going to take place, and I thought you mentioned there would be a slide denoting that, and some people have asked when that's going to be or how they can be sure to be notified of that. That's my first little economic peace gesture.
Communications director right there.
Public hearings, okay. We are, as we've mentioned many times, we're in the process of putting together the draft environmental impact statement, and then from there it is scheduled to be released. We're talking about late 2018. I don't have a specific date. Jay doesn't have a specific date at this point, but we're going to look to late 2018. From there, we're going to have a public comment period that will last at least 45 days. And through a public comment period, that means public hearings, and then various and different ways that you can comment, such as online, telephone, U.S. mail, email, all of those methods. We're going to make sure that we get all of that information out to the public through various means. News releases, social media, all kinds of things in the game plan, all kinds of different methods. Now the public hearing specifically, we are looking at early 2019. We don't have specific dates at this point because we are working on scheduling that based on our timeline for the draft environmental impact statement. But what I can tell you is that we are looking at several public hearings throughout the study corridor. So basically all the way from Wickenburg down to Nogales. And again, that entire 280-mile study corridor will have several public hearings. And again, that will be advertised to the public, community members, through various means. The best way to stay informed, I will tell you, in the meantime, is to go to our study website, I-11study.com. You can register to sign up for updates under the Contact Us tab, and that way you're in the system so that you are automatically getting those updates. Again, but we're not relying just on the study website, we're not relying just on those updates, we're going to rely on a whole media blitz to make sure that you, the public, are informed of those public hearings.
Is there a threshold number of public comment, considering we've submitted thousands of postcards, emails, and whatnot, that finally is the catalyst to let you know that this alternative, as far as the public is concerned, is not an option with us? Because it seems like we keep commenting, we keep going, and there's no threshold for when an alternative gets pulled.
Yes, I don't believe there is a threshold. It's just public comment is taken until the record of decision is signed.
And all voices are equal?
Yes, they are.
So, my last thing is, it seems like a bit of folly to me. So 100 years ago, this dude named Ford came out with this great idea and invented the vehicle and kind of put it on the road. And I'm looking at this going, do we really think in 20, 30, 50 years, this is how we're going to be moving cargo, is by interstates and trucks? And that's coming from somebody who uses one of these. So to me, it seems like absolute folly, Mr. Federal Government guy like myself, that we're even probing, disrupting so many lives and so much land for something that's antiquated. And I would hate for you to become the antiquated Department of Transportation.
Try the wheel.
What'd you say? I'm not sure. Try the wheel.
Kind of a comment to your comment. The public comment, it comes throughout the whole, every voice has heard the same, okay? A lot of times the name and the phone numbers are redacted. We see hundreds of pages of comment. I mean, I take it very seriously. I really do. So we read every comment. I don't memorize it, so whoever's going to ask what's on page 23, I don't know. But we take it very seriously. I personally do. I'm from Southern Arizona, raised my family here, I have 10 grandkids here. I believe that the comments from the general public here in Picture Rocks, you guys know it, it's your backyard. You know, people in Buckeye, they know it, it's their backyard. People in Nogales, they know it, it's their backyard. We have these meetings, and I get more information from that, and we seriously do take it into a lot of consideration.
Candy. My turn. Thank you guys for coming. And I love presentations.
Use the microphone.
I love presentations. Thank you, because they really, really give you something to work on. And what I saw in the sections, the north, central, and southern sections, I saw an incredible increase over the next 20 years for the north and the central. 200 and some percent has, so many excess minutes in travel time. When it got down to the southern area, it was 38% growth in population and 2 minutes of additional traffic time. So my question is, are you really taking into account the lack of benefit that a new highway through our area would provide in 2040? How much weight are you really looking at in something that really isn't going to benefit this part of the state, the rest of the state, or the entire corridor for that much, if you're only going to save 2 minutes in time and the population isn't looking to grow?
Believe me, at the Arizona Department of Transportation, if we don't have to build a road, we're not going to build it. So if there is not a need from a transportation standpoint in 2020, 2030, 2040, if the traffic doesn't show up, if the economic development, we don't build a road just for the sake of building a road. As I mentioned earlier, transportation responds to the need. So you heard Laura say this is a planning level at the very top. And this goes back to the autonomous vehicles question too. Okay? We will have a section in our environmental impact statement on emerging technology and autonomous vehicles. Again, if the technology is there, that is Arizona Department of Transportation and Federal Highway Administration, we don't have to build this road. We ain't going to build this road. So the autonomous vehicle, the purpose and need in terms of travel time and traffic. So right now we just have a planning stage. There's no definitive plan for an interstate, a 2-lane road, a 4-lane road, anything at this stage until the need is there and the impetus from local governments and us all, the public, decide that it's a necessity.
So are you saying, and I've still got the floor this time. So if you look at the numbers and it doesn't change from a 2-minute transportation increase or 38% population increase, are you saying that if those numbers still come through from the agency that you use, you would consider this a no build? Or is 38% and 2 minutes of transportation time enough for you to make a determination that, yes, a highway is still a good thing for this area?
The comparison in the draft environmental impact statement will address that. I don't know the answer to that. So 38%, is it 38% the 2 minutes? There's a whole lot of other issues besides travel time and population employment growth. So it's basically a trade-off of values, a trade-off of opportunities, a trade-off of constraints. So we have to look at the entire corridor from Nogales to Wickenburg. But as I'm saying, when the need becomes to build an implementable piece of roadway, at that time, is it necessary? We still have to do the planning level, because you've got to do the planning level if it's to come to fruition. The planning takes a long time. But you never, if you don't do this long-range planning, if you don't plan, you have no plan. So you start the plan, and then if it's necessary, if it's needed, then you have that opportunity. If not, then you don't need it.
But wouldn't the hookups make a whole lot of difference in there?
The who?
The hookups. If you're going to do the north section from here to here and the central section from here to here, if you decide it's not needed for the southern section, you've got a highway that stops nowhere.
No, you would have to, the next level of environmental studies, okay, goes to a tier 2, it's a full-blown environmental study. You cannot, you have to have a reasonable, terminal. You have to have logical, you have to have logical terminal. You can't just build a section of road, you know, from, you know, a dirt road to a dirt road, interstate. It's got to have a logical terminal. So the next study will determine if there's a need and where the implementation points can be. And a lot of that, again, is decided by local governments and metropolitan planning organizations, in this case, people associated with.
This is going to have to be the last question. We have to be out of here at 8:30. The government worker goes off the clock at 8:30. And we have to have everything cleaned out.
Okay, my name is Stephen Martin. I'm a resident. My question is, for this outdated plan to work, doesn't Mexico have to have a similar plan on their side of the border?
Our governor and Director Halakowski is working with the transportation officials in Mexico. We are looking at the border crossing. We, being ADOT, just improved the Mariposa port of entry, where a lot of, and there are trucks on I-19, where the trucks come up, the produce trucks come through Mariposa port of entry and continue up I-19. The Mexican trucks obviously make the circular motion to the warehouses and go back into Mexico. But the Mariposa port of entry has been designed, again, for the 2040 traffic, where our assumptions now, they may change next week, next year, and that's the joy of doing another environmental impact statement, and we'll have new data at that time.
We got one last one from the floor.
All FHWA projects coming into Arizona in conjunction with the state require a match contribution from Pima County, cash. 94.7% federal highway and 5.3% Pima County. Our Pima County taxpayers are expected to contribute to this project. Again, this is an interstate project and a state project. There are matches. Those numbers look close, but it is not a local government. It is a state match. But we're all part of the state too, so it comes out of our pocket, whether it's Pima County or state tax, to be honest.
All right, that's going to have to conclude. I need a motion to adjourn. Carol, second. Brad, okay, all in favor? All right, thank you so much. Picture Rock, show yourself a big round of applause. You did a great job.